Hello. For the final time this month, well, not really this month, it is the 1st of July, but, well, I guess it's also be the final time this month. We are going to end our week with an LGBTQ artist or a member of a band for Pride Month. Even though it was last month, every month can be Pride Month. That was weird. Not sure why that came back. Anyways, this selection comes at us from Thoughts of Decay. It says Body Void, Wounds. That sounds interesting. Sounds very heavy. Body Void. Plus this video thumbnail is not helping, but definitely getting like a metal vibe here. This comes off of the album Bury Me Beneath This Rotting Earth. Very metal right there. So let's dive into this and see what Body Void is bringing to the table today. Left side only. That's interesting. Very heavy. We have a slower tempo. We have a gnarly width to our guitar tones. Yeah. So much distortion on everything. Even here, we've shifted, of course. They were holding out the notes so much longer before doing the doom, doom, doom. Yeah, there's so much space that it even feels like the song is succumbing to its own weight. the moments of movement are getting, more and more distant. Okay. Really quick alternating bass kicks and snare. Tremolo picks where a tone's not even coming through, it's just a distortion of the guitars. Okay, back to this idea. Interesting, some minor variation here now. So the beat 4 is the same note as beat 1, and I keep thinking that we've reset early, like it's becoming a 3/4 bar. No, it's just like a little psych out. Yeah, those atmospheric scrapes. Just, a gnarly sound to add on top of what this whole song's doing already. We've slowed down. I have no idea what the tempo is anymore. so much static, so much compression, just more and more layers. I don't think there'll ever be consent. Oh, that's the same note. Okay. Bring in a new idea for this outro. All right. So here's the deal. That's a 13-minute song with primarily one idea in it. I don't know that this is going to be a very long analysis. So what is Body Void doing right here? A lot of noise, right? I could talk about, um, the main riff, right? Holding out the note for 3 beats and then having, 3 hits at the end, or yeah, 2 hits, and then the downbeat again. So it's a dotted half note for 3 beats, and then on beat 4 we get bum bum bum, and we go back to that dotted half. Um, and then we see a variation on this with when I mentioned that I felt like the song was dragging itself down, and instead of 3 beats of holding with 1 beat of movement, we have 7 beats of holding with 1 beat of movement, really allowing that one note to just fill the entirety of the section. Honestly, the drums really are not doing much else, and the vocals are moving forward. There's movement in the vocals, but really not a lot. And power wise, they're just not in the same realm as the bass and guitar are. They dominate the sound sphere. So even though there is more rhythmic movement in the vocals, they just don't pull the listener's attention as much as the guitars do, as they take up like all of the sound sphere. It's kind of bonkers how big they are. Um, we do hear a small variation on this idea in the outro, where instead of holding a note out, we have a repeated strike on the downbeats, that boom, 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 that kind of idea. Still, the majority of the movement is on that beat 4 to lead us back into the repetition of the idea. Um, and then, of course, there are squeals placed around. There was one time I remember hearing it before the outro, and that was to lead us into the fast section, which we're going to get into a moment because, yeah. As far as unique ideas go, that's the only time I can really say we have any contrast against our core idea. But we do hear squeals in the end to replace that beat 4, that bum bum bum, right? So we can squeal, everybody else cuts out, and the guitars will squeal on beat 4 before landing at the beginning of the idea again. So it's utilized once again as a sort of transitory idea. Um, and it's within the riff itself, except for that one time it takes us into the thrash section or the black metal section, whatever you want to call it. Aside from that section, though, that is the song. The other 12 and a half minutes of it is the two guitars laying down all of this weight, sometimes slowly, sometimes a little faster, sometimes with screeches, but for the most part, just being weighty and wide and taking up a ton of space and being really low notes. Um, Musically, of course, production we're going to touch on in a second because I think it's a lot more important than what's happening musically. Now, also on the musical side, though, in that faster section, we were in there for like 20, 25 seconds, maybe tops. It felt like we were out of it as soon as we got in it. Straight up thrash or black metal, whatever you want to call it. Double bass kicks, or sorry, not double bass kicks, alternating bass and snare. Real quick though. That sounds real dumb, but those are my sounds. For bass kicks and ka for its snare hit. It's so fast I don't get the airiness on the ka. So the snare sounds dumb at that speed. But yeah, that's my vocalization for that. It sounds better when it's slower. Ka, ka, ka. When you do it fast, it sounds dumb. But whatever. You guys get the gist of it. Real fast, moving between the two of them with some light cymbal work. Maybe just a ride on every hit, right? So it's more the consistent one where we're getting a lot of our bouncing energy from the bass and the snare, and our guitars are strumming at the exact same speed, but because of the production, we really don't get much tone out of it. It's just crackle, constant crackling. Um, so I don't even know if they're changing notes there. I don't know if there's any sort of a run or if they're just sitting on like an open string and just like strumming. But yeah, it's a very noisy section in a very different way than the slow noise, right? This is a lot of attacks and crackling. Previously, we had a few attacks, but still crackling and with power, right? The power comes from two different ideas, but both of these sections do the same thing. They create power and overwhelming weight just through two different means. And that's, I mean, musically, that's the whole song right there, right? It's a very simple song. And there's a lot of repetition in here. You really have to like what's going on, I think, to enjoy the song as a whole. You guys know me with slow burns. This isn't even like a slow burn that I could come around to. on like a critical listening, right? Maybe I can get invested into this emotionally for a casual one, but it's not even a slow burn with moving parts. A lot of this song is just resting on a note. So I wasn't going to have a lot to take away from here on a musical level. I acknowledge that. We're going to be moving on to what I think is more important, though: production. The production in this song stands out so much from everything else I think I've heard. They really ramp the destructive elements of their tone up to 11. The guitar tones themselves, I can't really make out notes. I can kind of make out movement, right? But there's so much compression and distortion and overdrive and probably some other destructive elements on it that the core timbre, the core note that's actually being played, is, at least to my ears, extremely diminished. Like I said, I can vaguely make out when we move notes, when we raise tones or lower in pitch. But even then, it's sometimes kind of iffy because there's that moment at the end when I was like, oh, they're bouncing back and forth between two notes. I was like, oh, wait, you know what? No, these are the same notes. Like, I literally couldn't tell. There's just so much of the note itself being destroyed that it's barely even there. In fact, it's not there at all in the attack. The attack is pure crunch. It isn't until you get into the decay, the reverb, allowing the note to ring out a little bit, that you even get a note, I mean, an inkling of the tone itself. And I think you don't hear this any better than the quick part. When they're strumming that fast, doing the tremolo picking, the note itself, I don't even think comes out. All you get is crackle. That is it. It is kind of bonkers that they turn the guitar into a white noise machine at that speed of playing. Um, but yeah, there's just like no tone whatsoever unless you let the note ring out a little bit. And props to them for finding that. There's just so much destruction that goes into that. For better or worse. I like hearing notes. It's my home. Like, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I'm getting more used to aggressive tones and sharper guitar tones and stuff like that. But, I mean, you guys know my home is classical and jazz and, some radio rock that I grew up on. And, seeing the notes on the paper and hearing them. And honestly, I don't think the notes on this song matter that much. I honestly don't think the guitars need to be tuned really to play this song, because so much of the tone is just, or so much of the pitch is removed from the sound of the guitars, the tones. And it's just kind of wild that it still kind of comes together and I can still hear elements of pitch, but like the concept of a pitch is just completely removed here. I don't think that something could even be out of tune. I really don't. Um, Well, let me replace that. I don't think the element of dissonance, harmonic dissonance, is something that would appear here too much. Tonality, definitely, but I don't think harmonic dissonance is something that would really shine through too much, just because the notes themselves barely have any impact on what's actually heard after you've hit the strings. Um, and of course, this compression is also applied to the drums, not as harshly, but there is some compression on it that kind of removes some of the crispness and natural feeling from it, and kind of gives it this metallic element. It feels very gritty, very dirty, very utilitarian. There's no color or personality to these drums. I don't know if they selected specific materials or specific drum heads or specific drum makers for it, because honestly, I don't hear any personality to the drums, the cymbals, the snare, the bass, any of it. It just sounds like generic snare hits. And a lot of that's from the compression that's put on top of it. And of course, the vocals, I think, are heavily compressed. There's a natural compression going on, but it doesn't feel like a traditional, typical Fry vocal, which would have a lot of power behind it. It feels a bit weak, narrow, um, almost like I don't want this to come off as a negative, but this is where my mind kind of goes. Like a lower pitched pterodactyl screech that they kind of like tried to squeeze a bit of extra compression on top of, right? It is a higher pitched type of harsh that just doesn't have a lot of power behind it, but it does have a bit of crackle, not as much as I would expect from a more traditional fry vocal. I don't want to say that they're doing it wrong. I don't know if it's a healthy or unhealthy kind of style that they're going for, but it sounds like there's a lot of force coming through and not a lot of power, which to me doesn't sound like a good combination. But I don't know because there's so much compression on it that gives it this extra grit. It still doesn't have a lot of power. Like I said, it can't really compete with what the guitars and bass are doing. Anytime that they are present, which is most of the song, the vocals just sort of get eaten up by what the guitars and bass are doing. So yeah, just compression all over the place to make the song feel super gritty and dirty. So what we have is a ton of grit, a ton of dirt, and super huge guitar and bass that fill up the entire sound sphere. And in that, we have a song that feels heavy even before we get to the music. But as we just talked about, the music is all about these long moments and low notes, and it's just overall a very weighty sound. And between the minimal composition and the attention to detail in the production, we end up with a song that feels very much like dragging your feet because you're carrying several thousands of insert your local weight system behind you. Pounds, kilograms. I don't know. I don't know what the equivalence is, but you're just carrying a ton of stuff behind you, and you're like dragging your feet because it takes all your energy just to take like the tiniest step, right? And that's what this feels like. The entire song is this weight being pushed down, and it is a complete sonic assault from all angles to achieve this very specific vibe. But then on top of all of that, we still have extra crackling. There is more distortion and white noise even put on top of the instruments that just continues to push the pressure down. It continues to make it feel like, because the thing is like the bass and guitar fill out the bottom end, right? And the drums are sort of in the middle. The vocals are above everything, kind of pitch wise, but not really power wise. So they're there, but I feel like the top end of the song is just kind of empty. And some of that white noise does a good job of filling it and really makes it feel like the sound sphere is full. Like it really can't have more sound being pushed into my ears, more sound around me. So yeah, just the whole song is going for that vibe. And like I said, whether it's the super slow bit or it's the faster bit where they kind of add the weight not through these lengthy times between notes that make it feel like it's dragging its feet, but adds intensity and weight through constant attack and the removal of tone. Almost everything in that fast section is purely textural. Um, so it's an oddity. Like I don't really know how to think about it given that it's such a small moment. It doesn't really provide contrast. It does the exact same thing just in a different manner. It still provides weight to the song. It is a moment of contrast, but it's not to take a breath, and it doesn't really seem to be a moment to explore a different vibe or a different feeling. And like I said, as soon as it comes in, it's also gone. So maybe if I knew the lyrics around it, that specific moment could bounce off of the lyrics somehow. But it seems really out of place here, since especially it's not doing anything differently in the sense of vibe, and it's quick, right? We enter it and we leave it, and that's pretty much the whole song. Heavy, weighty, angry, lots of distortion, and just really dragging its feet due to the weight of itself. To the point that it even feels at some points that the song begins to stretch itself so thin, especially when we get to the end, the part right before the end, when boom, boom, right? It's still the same tempo, but we are hitting on every other beat rather than beat one and then holding and then four. It's like one, two, three, four, one, two, and it's so slow. And before that, even when we had the 7 bars of held versus the one of movement, it just feels like the song is slowing down and continues to slow down and get stretched apart. That's the whole song to me, is just this constant drive towards destruction. It really sounds like the song is slowing down to a halt because uh, the performers are just putting way too much weight on it, and as much as it tries to carry it, it just can't. And I think that just about covers everything I want to talk about musically. Like I said, not a lot of core music to talk about, stuff that would be on sheet music, but a lot of production stuff and feeling. Right, this song is all about feeling. So let's get into some lyrics here and see what's going on. The land is wounded, drenched in blood. The skin that holds our ache stretched beneath the septic sun. We live here by a hole the earth has opened wide to scream its curse. Okay. The wound has spread, it grows like vines, it grows from the pit of my heart and circles my spine. So let's see. The earth, it has a wound, right? And there's blood all around it. And we live here by this hole. The earth opened the hole to scream its curse. The wounds spread, so this hole in the earth continues to spread and grows like vines. Interesting metaphor. When I die, my body will return to the dust and the earth from which I was born. The world is waiting for a sign of life. The spirit's been abandoned. The cancer of greed, of waste with hungry mouths to feed. We cannot wait for long. Okay, okay. Everything else, it's kind of metaphor dripped in metaphor. I Even knowing what I think this song is about now, I'm not too sure I get these first couple of stanzas. But here I think we're beginning to really talk about it quite directly, right? Um, the world is wounded, its spirit has been abandoned, there's a cancer of greed, and we waste though we have hungry mouths to feed. We can't wait for long. I'm assuming we can't wait to heal this wound in the earth. Capital's worship of idols with no past consume the world with force. The cannibal flays the skin of family, sells it back for more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The land is wounded, bones exposed. I'm strung up on a line, insides hanging out. I'm cut piece by piece. They take whatever they need. I'm gone. I fade away. This planet is not yours. Your hunger starves us all. Your wealth won't save you. This planet is not yours. You coward. Your system is over. So, yeah, this seems to be anti capitalist, or anti capitalism, I should say, because the cancer that wounds the earth is greed, stated quite bluntly. There's a lot of waste, though we have hungry mouths to feed. A lot of food gets thrown away, even though we have starving people in the world. It says that capital worships idols with no past. So, brand new owners of things, right? They consume the world with force. And the cannibal flays the skin of family and sells it back for more. So I kind of take that as the abuse of workers, right? Where we take they call it the skin of the family, but I view it as taking time, right? Time is your greatest resource, and you really should spend it with your family as much as you can, but you also have to give some of your time to large corporations that will sell you back exactly what you spent doing for more than what it cost them for you to make it, right? Especially if you work in anything of consumption based, foods or goods, anything like that, or even services, right? What you get paid to perform this and make sure that these goods get made barely covers what it would cost to buy it back. Um, so, yeah, they flay the skin of the family and sell it back for more. Then we get back into more of this I perspective, right? I'm strung up on a line, inside's hanging out. I'm cut piece by piece. They take whatever they need. I'm gone and I fade away. Again, I could see this as being part of the workforce, right? Especially in the U.S., at least, a lot of workers are sort of just beholden to their companies, especially since we have stuff like healthcare tied to our jobs. So, yeah, just kind of have to let them take what they need, even if you need it, right? And you can break your body and perish from overworking, but it's something that is just kind of brushed away. It's just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Just work those 70-hour weeks. Don't complain about it. Just do it. Um, and then we have a statement. This planet's not yours. Your hunger, your greed, starves all of us. Your wealth won't save you. Time will still take you eventually. Says your system is over. We're getting ready to dismantle this idea. The sky is swallowed, darkness falls, the wound spreads to become a bottomless pit. It's a grave, and we all fall in. Where we all go, the stars are gone. We drift away with nothing, a universe damned, rejection of life, rejection of self. So, yeah, basically says, your system is going to destroy the entire world, and it's going to take you with it, right? If we have all sorts of problems, from homelessness to global hunger to uh, what is it? Climate change, right? All sorts of things being attributed and exacerbated by those with power, those who are rich, those who need more money and power. So, they're actively have a hand in the destruction of this planet, and we don't have anywhere to go. If this planet dies, they go with it, and their wealth won't save them. And says if that happens, we'll have a damned universe that there's a rejection of life in it. Dang, man. And that's what I'm talking about too. Like this kind of music, it's heavy, it's angry. Well, the music itself isn't angry, but the vocal production feels angry. The delivery of it. This is the kind of lyrics I need when I hear music like this, because there is such a strong synergy here between the theme of the lyrics and the theme of the music. If I'm going to hear some angsty, angry, upset, weighty music, I need to have some big lyrics with that. And usually it just doesn't deliver. It's usually punk that really gets into this socio-political stuff that I think is something worth screaming about. And it works right here so well. Not that this is punk. I don't know what this is. This is some sort of doom metal, maybe. I'm trying to think of something. I mean, we listen to Funeral Doom, but I think this is even slower than that, and it's certainly heavier. At least that one exposure I had to Funeral Doom last week. Um, was that Death by the Seaside? I think was the name of that band. Um, at least that track was. I mean, it had moments where it was brighter and atmospherically melancholic, but not like this is heavy. So I don't know what this is. This might be straight up doom metal. Maybe something else that drags it drags the tempo down. But yeah, everything just works really well here, right? The lyrics are angry. They're graphic in a lot of different ways. There's some strong metaphor there, especially in the latter 60%. The first couple of stanzas, I'm still a bit iffy on. Like I kind of get them in retrospect now that I know what the song's about, but they're still kind of like I don't know, a little weak. But dug into it and grew the idea, and I think it landed well by the end of the song. So yeah, I don't know if I would listen to it again. I like I said, I really have to be in the mood for this emotion, this energy, because they deliver it constantly, but it's also very singular idea right here. But I absolutely love what they're doing here, unifying the musical themes with the lyrical ones, and yeah, great job on this. So those are my thoughts on Body Void's Wound. That's where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this track. If there's anything that stood out to you that maybe I didn't talk about, anything you'd like to expand on what I said, just general comments, go ahead and put them up there. Above the comment section is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. In there you can find all sorts of links for this channel. You can join the Patreon and shape the future of the channel. You can follow me on Twitter and see what I tweet about. You can join the Discord and communicate with the rest of the community. The internet is wild in the way that it connects us. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, ring. I don't know where some of this stuff comes out sometimes. Ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this week. Fantastic week. Some wild stuff, crazy stuff. Pure chaos. We had another Shining track that I'm still sort of iffy on. I mean, just a wild week altogether. We have an Ocean Size reaction tomorrow to complete album review. Sunday we have the live stream for the patrons, and Monday we'll be back checking out our next week's theme. And we'll also be back to the typical Friday schedule of doing creator requests, which I have been getting backed up a little bit on since I did a whole month without doing them. So hopefully we can catch up on that a little bit. All right. Well, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.